are woefully inadequate, and Trump is threatening to repeal them altogether. Extreme retaliation, lack of protection, chills whistleblowers. Ready? 314. The EP whistleblowers made an important check on legal and ethical practices, antiquating cancels laws if you have whistleblower protection. Advocates are concerned about the administration signals to roll back whistleblower protection, pointing to Trump's request for limiting WPAC. The decision can set a precedent on rights protection for environmental whistleblower protection. The EPA wrongfully terminated the scientists for disclosing concern about toxic substances, which the EPA terminated employment and retaliation for communication. EPA falsified regulation standard governing association for standards and deliberately engaged in discovery misconduct. Current laws are woefully inadequate to protect whistleblowers and discourage people from whistleblowing in the first place. Whistleblowers check EPA pesticide abuse. They notify the public of lethal chemicals receiving approval. Have some time. Doubly true, the chemicals of crop field toxins are seen in light of thanks to release of never before documents supposed to represent a repository of evidence against the EP, which has been lying about chemical safety for decades. Often has been uncovering truth that the EPA for committing crimes against humanity. The threat was improved by the EPA. The agency knew that it would cause cancer. 10% of the population will EPA whistleblowers be stand up that represent the chemicals that the EPA has approved despite data showing them to be dangerous. While the EPA is causing millions their health, I'd like to see more EPA whistleblowers willing to come forward about the agency's corruption of science on behalf of the chemical industry. Whistleblowers are enormous assets to society. They can produce the performance of the colleagues in their corrupt. The whistleblowers should be rewarded. EPA leaders need to be held accountable. Progress rescuing the EPA is going to take more than 5 1 but after it's time to keep the lesson of the poison papers. Regulations on pesticides are insufficient in industry bias. The EPA approved pesticides with severe environmental risks and systematically excludes studies which reveal little without a boon at all 14. Pesticides are distributed by atmospheric drift runoff and moving through the food web, creating the potential for health and environmental risk. Mandatory they became pesticides and grow toxicity connected by pesticides. Manufacturer pesticide experience research are concerned about a major weakness in the EPA's pesticide risk assessment is use of industry spontaneous DUIs or upgraded industry spontaneous are more likely to support effects of the industry. Industry spontaneous to obscure the real impact of the pesticide risk cannot be responsibly managed. The EPA has original criteria for study inclusion. Most studies do not have specific criteria. Studies criteria based on regulatory decisions. Only a handful of studies the EPA they show a great tolerance of not finding an effective hormone strategies, which indicates lack of precaution. Studies suffer from inherent limitation. The external validity, generalizability must be complemented. Very relevant field study. Toxic pesticides are the chief driver of biodiversity loss. Pan 13. Scientists rank biodiversity loss high on their list of urgent concerns. Chemical contaminant has been long understood as an important driver of biodiversity. Dropping pesticide later treat biodiversity decreased significantly with increased pesticide contamination. We're living through this creative catalyst of biological belief today's trajectory to massive change imposed even greater without humanity. The more researchers found that pesticide contamination is the more main driver of biodiversity loss. Biodiversity loss caused the extinction near 12. Data from over 200 studies include the decreased level of biodiversity or detrimental to ecological processes have problems solving pollution and habitat destruction. Biodiversity loss overlooked is a major threat that is on par with warming. Biodiversity affects the way ecosystem function in terms of human cycling and productivity because the interconnected nature of ecosystem. The loss of species can take a toll on the rest of the environment. The more we take out the more change we'll see. Biodiversity has tended to compound itself, leaving the full extent of its impact on our estimated diversity loss, particularly because it can affect a number of other ecosystem functions that are valuable to maintenance of human life on Earth. Specifically, neonic use is higher than ever in killing off entire bee colonies, but the EPA refuses to regulate and keeps crucial research under wraps. Theobald 16. Pesticide code is treated and unregulated by the EPA's pollinated populations. Public EPA likes policy for seeds coated with pesticides and cause massive dying. So bees, the EPA will not regulate these pesticides. Studies after studies show seeds coated with these chemicals are major culprit in catastrophic bee kill. Neonics are linked with the record high colony mortality. Corn soybean seeds coated with these chemicals are planted across 150 million acres and most expensive pesticide application in the nation. The EPA exempted seeds from regulation to defend their toxicity. The public should be alarmed when one-third of the average person died as they generate pollinators. The nation's largest commercial beekeeping operation suffered $800,000 in damages just when bee killed into the neonicide list. That's after to obtain relevant public documents were blocked by the EPA. Neonicide the most deadly pesticides ever created in the EPA. He says this to conceal the massive scale of the use that caused the extinction. Dafra 15. Bees are going extinct because of excessive use of pesticide extinction. If bees would end humanity, honeybees are crucial. Less crops will lead to famine, hunger, and poverty. Fertility without first ever would be forced into extinction within a few hundred years. Resolved: the United States federal government should implement a federal shield law that gives reporters the right to protect the identity of confidential whistleblower sources with environmental protection agencies. 17. Leaking is legal. EPA leaking whistleblowers are dangerous because the possibility of retribution against legal whistleblower protections have proven toothless and anonymous sharing of information with the media can be effective. The WPA tried to give special protection to government employees who disclose danger to public health. EPA prepared to agency protection against speaking at the press exists and officially works through suggestion intimidation. Once a source decides that the enemy is hardly given communication to source journalists may be considered a privilege. The privilege is protected by state laws and most state shield laws mean the prosecutors cannot be compelled journalists to disclose their source. There's no federal shield law. That means that federal prosecutors can subpoena journalists, put them under oath, and ask them to disclose the source and ask the judge to put them in jail if they refuse. Increased confidentiality for whistleblowers is key to ensuring that they come forward warn. 15. Blowing the whistle on environmental law can help the EPA to save the planet and to engage with many people. Small requires mechanisms for whistleblowers to knowledge of environmental violations to work with authorities. Several substantial government settlements of whistleblowers case have legislative control suits becoming mainstream and lucrative. Although their success rate, the chilling reports of the health risk of coming forward to accept financial loss of market issues and reproductive litigation to ensure whistleblowers continue to come forward. The government must ensure they receive protection. Environmental whistleblowers save life and catalyze legislative change. Government journals are crucial to this process. Cap 17. Information shared by whistleblowers drives significant legislative reforms as concerned about corruption and environmental increases. Deserve to pass on whistleblowers the power of whistleblowers to pass on the work of journalists who verify disclosure and bring them to the public. Partnership between whistleblowers and journalists is essential. Democracy journalists are under unprecedented attack. Whistleblowers who reveal serious wrongdoing face professional and personal reprisal. The standard is maximizing spectral well-being. Phenomenal introspection proves that pleasure is intrinsically good. So now wait. Phenomenal introspection and reliable visual perception, creatures believe with form beliefs about their states which derive and reproduce belief measures good to byproduct of phenomenal introspection and reliable cause of our ability to understand the introspective experience of others commits us to util. Cinema, wait. Once considered pleasure, one can make judgment they are good experiences, just one fully element things one can pressure and recognize its good. So when I consider increasing pressure, things are better than they were before, just as more brightness, my vision feels yellow, places dark, one has it, one feels good, phenomenal introspection can produce. Some content are good, while others about moral uncertainty means that preventing extinction should be our highest priority. Bottom 12. Moral uncertainty that suppressing axiology may be good because if we're uncertain, there's a great value in preserving our ability to recognize value and future steer the future accordingly, ensuring there will be future humanity is the best way to increase future value. State engagement allows revolutionaries to learn the techniques of state oppression to infiltrate the oppressor from within. William 70. Isolation of tyrannical engagement against radical changes is a great virtue to protect opportunities to join government services by and federal organs of power chain can be effectuated from pressure within. Effective struggle requires tactic plans of oppression have perfected systems of infiltrating for underground the oppressed. It is imperative that people enter the establishment and infiltrate institutions.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So regarding the plan, is it the EPA that is using those pesticides and implementing those pesticides, or is it like EPA's approval of certain companies?
Yeah, so the EPA regulates pesticides and just like has say in distributing them.
Right.
So
but is it like the EPA has regulation to allow companies to use pesticides?
So they control what pesticides get put on and taken off of the market. Our argument is that they abuse that power and.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Okay.
Can you explain the warrant to the Theobald 16 card? Like, why is this relevant now?
Yeah, so our evidence indicates that currently neonic use is higher than ever, and it has begun to kill off bee colonies. Neonic is a type of pesticide, and its use is exacerbated right now.
Okay, that's fine. On your, you say, so why is it like specifically key now that to stop pesticides right now, to stop extinction? Like having mass use of pesticides, and like your own evidence says that within the past the EPA has used like toxic and illegal chemicals.
Sure. So biodiversity loss is a sliding scale, right? So obviously biodiversity loss has occurred in the status quo and probably occurs right now. However, our argument is that in order to stop catastrophe from happening, things like famine, disease, and just like disrupted ecosystems, or the continuation of those things, which eventually become existential, we have to regulate and ban these pesticides.
Right, so the use of pesticides and biodiversity loss has been happening for decades. So when is the sliding scale like ever going to completely lead to extinction?
Okay, it is not yes extinction or no extinction. Our argument is that biodiversity is currently catastrophic and will continue to be. We should stop this pattern before we all go extinct as a result of biodiversity loss.
So it's just biodiversity leads to like more environmental degradation, is that it?
Yes, that is one portion of the argument.
Okay. What do you mean by like it's yes or no extinction? Like how can you have half of extinction?
Our argument is that the closer we get to extinction, the worse. We should pass the plan because passing it now is good.
Wait, can you clarify that?
Yeah, so we lose like 60 forests, right? Right now we have 100. Because we still have those 40 forests, that is a reason, like this is obviously hypothetical, that's not scientifically accurate, but like we should still save the bees, save the plants because of those 40 forests, because losing the next 40 of those forests would drive us farther into this pattern where people get diseases, we don't have adequate food, and eventually we all die as a result of disrupted.
Right, so my question is, that has already been happening, like what like massive leap forward do you like provide to allow that to just like
the EPA will now have regulations that ban toxic pesticides that are currently legal.
State that regulations do not work?
No, it says that currently the EPA is able to bypass regulations. Correct?
Okay, yeah. Start that. Wait, so is your solvency mechanism contingent upon like whistleblowers leading to new legislation?
Yeah, that's one component of it.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, stop her. I have 240 left. I'll save and send it down. I just sent it out. The order will be draw face. Tell me when you're ready. Interpretation: the affirmative must offend all sources, and sources is a bare plural indicating all instances in Evil 14. Bare plural is like determinants and qualifier for the non-detailed which government is used. Bare plural is generic for the kinds of things rather than particular members of the debate of government in general, and semantics on independent vote and ours pragmatics. Evil 14. Accepting the determinant and constitutes consent to debate the topic. No one can reject the principle that requires everyone to debate the resolution. A resolution as worded, someone who wishes to debate the resolution has a strong claim against changing the topic. No one has a strong claim on fairness is a constraint on the procedure whether it's unjustifiable to your opponent. And prefer additionally one key to unpredictability. Nobody will reasonably prep every single type of like source or every single type of leak, but rather prefer common like types of leaks that people specify. That's key to research too. Any pragmatic reason is a reason why the topic committee should change the topic, even if when you're interview or just not topical. Do you get the most objective because it doesn't rely on arbitrary determinants of what is the best form of debate. Violation. They defend like pesticide leaks specifically within the Environmental Protection Agency. Standards limits. They allow access by any specification. The source of justice an infinite number of acts, including like confidential sources specific to any random agency such as the Environmental Protection Agency. They can just hyperparametricize the resolution. And that always 8 iterative content mastery debaters learn best from success and strategic iterations of engaging debates about the same core issue challenges students to innovate and adapt their arguments based on feedback from opponents and judges. B. Prep nuance research requires a station point a large case result in shallow debates and pushes argumentation to the fringes to find broad theses that disagree with everything. This prevents rigorous argument testing. Anyone can skim a Wikipedia article with the process clashes unique to debate. C. Grab core negative to connect to territory set of the relations that don't apply to after targets are small. Group resource keeping the topic about all sources necessary for stable negative. D. Specifically key on the topic net policy ground is already almost non-existent specifying small instances. Increase the probability that the act is 100% true and uncontestable. With strong engagement, voters, education, only portable impact for debate we care about. What we learn rather than in fear of fairness considered to the judge to decide the better. Debater only fairness is in your jurisdiction because excuse decision making and competing interpretations of reasonability. One reasonability cause a waste of honor because the debater is keeping merely reasonable magnifying based on the debater one times confused me at a dishonest also making theory the only accessible one to the valid two sets of present debaters will be abusive and RVS bad one rule applicability when theory is not reasonable to the rule proving your meaning necessarily will not give you a award to discourage checking abuse because debaters will be afraid to lose on theory 3 RVS centers a debate on theory centers also because it's the only place the rocket meeting started hours on time we only get 2 months to talk about the topic and all research where the majority of debate execution occurred. Next off. Democrats now Republican expectations still high. Generic ballot Democratic enthusiasm. Women's sports sparks 10-10. Republicans general ballot with 54% Democrats enthusiasm about congressional voters increased 60% say enthusiastic to vote more intense than it has been in previous cycles. Talks spoken among women's support for Democrats remains 63%. Republicans are winning the expectations gain. Democrats have not been gaining the expectations. Half Americans expect Republicans to remain in control. Reability ratings that stated about the same since May. And empirics proof through 2 different policy proposals in Congress that shield laws are objectively seen as a bipartisan issue. Raskin's press release 17. Congressman Jimmy Raskin and Jordan introduced Freedom of Information Act of 2017 bipartisan federal law that would protect the power public's right to know by safeguarding free and independent legislation will establish a federal statutory privilege that would protect journalists from being compelled to reveal confidential sources. Raskin and Jordan's proposal for federal law is identical to previous bipartisan bill which passed the House with overwhelming support for 398 to 21 vote. The 2007 legislation champion sponsored by Vice President Mike Pence and environmental policies are a key voting issue for swinging independent voters. Resnick all 14. Action of commenting political move poll shows broad support for new relegation swing. Say 61% of voters support new rules the EPA proposed. We are in new political movement in the fight against climate change. 70% of Americans nationwide support federal regulation of emissions. And bipartisan bills are key to GOP maintaining control. Independent voters Bolton A15. Republicans legislators focus on legislation that bills independent swing voters. Democrats can win the opportunity. The Senate will take upon a way of bills with bipartisan support. It's not decided to stoke fight. Expenditures voters. Republicans are steady in a government. The Democrats are trying to sell under one party government. Washington is in chaos. Winning over independent voters will be crucial. It's important to appeal to moderate because the Democratic base is justice. Fired up is better when independent voters, but showing Republicans can work with Democrats to get things done. And Democrats block judiciary takeover prevents abolition of SCOTUS for all voices and prevents any blue slips. Kilgore 17. 51 senators with me. Democrats bring back obstacle to the 5th Justice ready to overturn Roe v. Wade. Judiciary Committee would mean restoration of blue slips rights. Congress that the judiciary could come to a halt as early as a year from now. And Trump judiciary takeover is an existential threat to the environment. Only blue slips can prevent it. Shrogan 17. Trump has treated this court system for a long time. It could be the biggest impact he has on the environment. There's a whole lot of damage that will take forever to repair. Obama's to reduce emissions. The Trump administration is expected to resend President Obama ban drilling the Atlantic Ocean. And Trump's on an executive order to lift the man's groups of challenging the Trump administration is moving to weaken Obama's climate change initiatives. The Trump administration has backed every Republican Congress with the weaken the endangered species that Trump appointed judges will make decisions for decades that favor timber oil mining industries to the desert murder. Many of the species they present an existential threat to clean water, clean air. However, it will take Trump time to fill all the slots doesn't need Senate confirmation. The Republican control Senate and McConnell are expected to be strong allies. Filibuster eliminated during Obama senator to block a nominee by failing to return a blue slip without the filibuster. Trump has little incentive to nominate moderate judges. And extinction McCoy 14. IPCC should believe no doubt about the scale and immediacy of the threat to survival threats of warming, scarcity, extreme weather, sea level loss of biodiversity, areas become uninhabitable, tipping points could lead to catastrophic collapse. Now on to case. All Brady, one beginning of their article, they say that it's about wrongful termination of whistleblowers. The plan cannot affect that. Brady 314. EPA officials are wrongfully fired an agency whistleblower who is entitled to protections. The judge of termination after she blew the whistle on the agency's response to the 9/11 attacks as an example of beneficial statutory challenges that Congress made of federal whistleblower protections. And 2, their evidence also says journalists don't grant anonymity, not that identities would be forced to be disclosed. And off of 1 proves the status quo. Some whistleblowers have already exposed the bad pesticide policies which are the AF internal links to. The best case scenario for the AF is they result in some New York Times op-ed that blows the lid off the split, but that doesn't result in stopping pesticide use. They have to win at the plan some swears legislative change with the GOP control Congress. They obviously won't flip-flop and overturn policies they just passed. They have no solvency evidence in the Congress of Trump and Davis. In 2012, Davis 17. In 2012, Congress passed the Whistleblower Protection Enhancement Act to destroy weaknesses in the original laws. Whistleblower advocates saw it as a significant improvement, eliminating loopholes that had kept whistleblowers from attaining protection. And whistleblowers who disclosed corruption on Scott Pruitt and called out the EPA have happened recently. Trump just doesn't care. Will continue to deck the budget and halt projects. David 17. Elizabeth said that love their work at the EPA. The impact of the new administration on environmental protection, the destructive environmental policies of President Trump and EPA Administrator Pruitt. EPA has been the guiding light to make the right things happen. Trump and Pruitt tried double law. Be possible. The best case is polluters built through increased taxes, user fees, and higher water and sustainability. Worst case is they will have to live with the increased public health and safety risks and degraded environment. Trump's plan 31% EPA budget will lead to the loss of thousands of public and private sector jobs. Left alone when public with their opposition to Trump's environmental program. Trump is creating a hostile environment for scientific fact. Staff Mike Cox also cited the dangerous loss Canadians face when he quit EPA. Cox administration policies are contrary to those Americans want to ensure air is safe. Everyone is focused on presenting all the facts to new political teams and help the faces change in mind. I do not know even one EPA employee who is doing anything to sabotage. And current litigation solved recently forced EPA to ban pesticide wallets 18. A federal court ordered the EPA to ban pesticide use while the Trump administration let EPA make that decision in April 2017. Thursday's ruling overturns that decision to chloroplast the agency for having solvency chlorpyrifos. And species loss will lead to extinction. Reader 8. That the low resilience of such larger false is apparent in the number of examples of species extinction that are not brought about catastrophic ecosystem collapse. Most species do not seem to have any conventional value add on that. Rarer species are the ones least likely to be missed by no stretch of the imagination. By the imagination can we make them out to be vital cogs in the ecological machine. And environment resilient. Actually, I won't be reading that card. Go to the last card on case. Case no solvency, the corporation that regulate pesticide control the media turns case writing watch 9. First, the mass media companies that the party control content media journalists and journalists values with commercial political media understands executives have political views and right to influence. They exert control of the character reporting what issues get dealt with and ignored. Cut the card and ignored. Now, in this case, the impact is not unique. Not only do we have sufficient evidence on this, but pesticide use has been happening for decades now with like species law and not leading to any like extinction. They say it's a sliding scale, however, they don't provide any evidence in the case for why this unique instance and this unique time frame right now is key to stop from leading to extinction. Basically, they're just saying that their impact is linear, which means that the descent just outweighs. I'm making a process.
The your argument about environmental policies being key to swing and independent voters is from 2014. Why do swing and independent voters care about environmental policies now?
Right. So not only is it doesn't matter that the car's from 2014, because right now, like even despite
the political climate now is the same as it was in 2014.
No, I'm saying that it's just like gotten further worse and environmental.
Where does your evidence indicate that currently under the Trump administration or even 2018 political climate that swing and independent voters care about environmental legislation?
Wait, where in the evidence does it say that swing voters care about environmental legislation?
Right now.
Right now? I mean, the car's from 2014, but like also you can clearly see.
Okay,
like, in the Obama
that's fine. Let's talk about the Bolton evidence. What does it mean that bipartisan bills are key to maintaining GOP control?
It basically means that a bipartisan bill will basically be seen as a Republican victory, and it will swing like independent voters because of the fact that it will just like lead to the further perpetuation of the perception.
So how do things like immigration and Kavanaugh not overturn this? Like, why are bipartisan bills specifically key to the GOP maintaining control?
What do you mean by things like immigration and Kavanaugh?
Why are bipartisan bills specifically key to GOP maintaining control as opposed to other things that go on in the political climate?
Right, that's the warrant to the card that bipartisan bills are like specifically key.
Okay. That's fine. So you say Trump judiciary takeover is an existential threat to the environment. Trump has been court packing since January. Why is the impact unique?
Because right now, like Trump still has like a couple years to go, basically meaning that Trump will just continue to stuff the judiciary. He already has been stuffing like judges. However, he will just continue to do that, and also he'll take back the policy of blue slips that exists in the status quo.
Your evidence is from 2017. How do we not know that like Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, or even just like local judges, don't already cause this impact?
I mean, like he's only had like a couple he's only had like nominated like a couple of judges right now. It's not just that he's like appointing judges. It's also that he'll get rid of like Senate's ability to challenge those like judge nominations.
What is a blue slip?
It's basically like a slip that the senator can write, basically like a memo where they challenge like the nomination and like basically express their opinion regarding Trump.
Do Democrats have that now?
Yeah.
Is it effective?
What?
Is it effective now?
Yeah, Democrats use it. It's not just Democrats. Like it's like within the legal power of like any senator, like any member of Congress to use.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I'll start prep.
Can I go get water?
Wait, really quick. You didn't read anything? You didn't read several caused biodiversity collapse, or did you?
I'm taking your I didn't read from the Cariva AL12 card to the Robinson 17 card.
So nothing under Cariva?
Yeah.
Or case no solvency.
Yeah.
The corporations are regular. case topicality but decide. Yeah, set. Sorry, it was taking a while. Is anyone not good?
It's covered. Case T decided.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm done.
Wait, is it T first or case?
Case.
Okay.
Anyone not good? Biodiversity loss is catastrophic. Famine, disease, and disrupting the ecosystem. The plan reverses these trends and improves EP regulations, results in lethal pesticides being taken off the market. It turns the decide increased loss of biodiversity means that GOP is more likely to win midterms because they use it as a fearmonger effect. Also outweighs there's more biodiversity loss as a result of the plan than some possible legislation that the GOP might use or Trump might have. Now the plan can affect individuals that don't know the identity of sources. Won't know the identity of sources once the plan gets passed, so they can't fire them. And journalists will have to protect the identity. It's federal law. Otherwise, they'll get in federal trouble. There's not enough pesticides being revealed now. It was one after 10 years, which isn't sufficient. Our GAP 17 evidence proves that journals are a sufficient mechanism. People will have to care about the plan when they hear about extinction. Democratic when they hear about extinction, which means that even under the prudent, even under Trump, they'll pass further legislation. And Trump has overturned WPAC, which means that it's not sufficient. Your Davidson evidence refers to someone talking about warming and Trump disagreeing with them, not pesticides. There's not enough banning now. It was one pesticide after years, which is obviously is inefficient. Species loss does lead to extinction. Your evidence assumes 1 or 2 losses. Ours is a complete disruption of ecosystems. Even so, things like famine and disease are a long way down and still hurt. Also, freedom of the press checks your argument about the media controlling. Your evidence is about a capitalist machine and is speculative. The media isn't controlled by the EPA, and biodiversity loss is a sliding scale now is key because it's getting worse. Now, the TISA. Counter-interpretation, the affirmative must defend the resolution as a general principle unless they have solved the applicant, in which case they must defend a subset of reporters using grammar to assess topicality. Just one interpretation, at least a repetitive and uninformative debates plan that defend a subset of the topic, avoid generalizability, judge intervention, modifiers, check predictability, not reading the card. It solves all your often solving. A solvency advocate proves my position is in the literature, which means you should have encountered during normal topic research. And the net benefits are stable advocate inspecting a plan makes it clear where the offense and where the offense come from. That controls the internal link to neg strategy. Ground is useless. The affirmative could shift out of the position by explaining one is the vagueness, and the second argument is aff strategy. Aff gives to the round of line, whereas the neg can tailor the strategy based on the aff, and neg also has the ability to upload your top plan, compensate for the advantage. And the third argument is real world. Shield laws and the status quo do not offer protection to every source, which also answers your ground argument. Now, your solvency advocate solves predictability. We did that above. We've impact turned grammar and the limits offense. Over under limiting is good. It's better than having the same debate every time. We only have 2 months to debate the topic. Now, the ground argument. You do get ground. It's not a question of you could have read a terror decide about with a homeland security link. It's a question of research. You just have to add new prep, and sources and reporters are just plurals. If I say I want drinks, it doesn't mean I want every drink in the world. We protect multiple sources by protecting all EP whistleblowers and use reasonability. Competing interpretation causes a race to the topic as debaters exclude free position, which causes substantive conduct. Now, the dissent. Dems win midterm circuit 10. Midterm elections are referendum on the incumbent. Every time a president faces negative ratings for the midterm, means out for his party. The president stood 42%. Republicans are whatever climbing top to get on the midterm region. The generic ballot question has been remarkably advocate predictor. Democrat control side around 7-point advantage. Out cause tweets and Kavanaugh. Your evidence bulletin 8:15. Tweets from Trump have infinitely more reach impact than the Senate has taken this strategy. Also noted Kavanaugh will do a lot of energies before election day. So many other bipartisan bills. Your evidence bulletin 8:15. The Senate will take up an array of bills with a bipartisan post-war defense and labor, health, and human services bills, open legislation, water reforces, the development act, the FEA farm bill, as well as a conference for the separate appropriation bill passed. Kavanaugh ensures GOP loses midterm first, and Martin 929. If Republicans said Kavanaugh would injure as many Democrats and independents Republicans ability to keep the House depends on the moderate skeptical of Judge Kavanaugh for this week. Played hard to put that bases and big enough that people aren't women. They need cut the card there and cut the card there. Now your evidence environmental policy isn't key. Now your evidence is from 2014. You haven't proven them stuff. Also, Trump has already elected a bunch of judges, which means that your impact is not unique because there's an existential threat to the environment. They already will be. There's no reason why Trump will overturn blue bills if they have it. But Dem will already win midterms.
Wait, it's not confirmed. Like, did you read all of it or no?
No.
Where did you put it?
I didn't read anything under Kavanaugh ensures.
But did you read the Burns and Martin 9 card or no?
I'm sorry?
So you didn't read anything below the Burns and Martin 9 card, right?
I read Burns and Martin.
Yeah, anything below that.
Yes.
Okay. I have 240 prep. Start prep. The order will be overview to the ground, you fold it at the top of case, and then case in the midterms.
Case in the midterms?
Yeah. Is everybody ready? Overview to the round, I'm going to make several critical mistakes. First, they completely concede the Walls 15 evidence that the status quo solved because there has been litigation that has been passed in the status quo specifically regarding forcing the EPA to ban pesticides. And second, they still don't answer the scenario off of Huff where the best case scenario for the affirmative is that they result in some New York Times op-ed that blows the lid off the place, but that doesn't result in stopping pesticide use. They have to win that the plan somehow spurs legislative change within a GOP-controlled Congress who obviously is not going to flip-flop and overturn policies they just passed. They have no solvency evidence in the context of Trump. All their evidence is at least a couple of years old and doesn't explain anything in the context of Trump. And so Also, extend the Wright and Rogers line evidence that the case doesn't solve because the corporations that regulate those pesticides are controlled by the media. They iterated in cross that yes, they're defending like the EPA regulations. However, it's like at the end of the day, it's the corporations that enforce those policies and have to enforce those regulations. And those corporations are in charge of the media within the first place, which means that they will within the media in the first place, which means that they will just not be deterred, and there will be no actual case solvency. Also, they keep talking about a sliding scale. However, they still fail to provide any like brink evidence or any like actual evidence about why right now like is uniquely key. Don't allow them like this in the argument in the 2 year. I don't have a 3 year to respond to it. All they just keep saying is that it's a sliding scale. However, pesticide use has been in like use for decades now, and the EPA, their own evidence concedes that the EPA has been. Their own evidence is that the EPA has been consistently like using like illegal pesticides and allowing regulations and just bypassing regulations regarding illegal pesticides, which means that we should have already seen the impact by now. Also, extend the Ritter ACAR that species loss won't lead to extinction. Their only argument against this is that we only have like they only provide 1 or 2 cases. However, like no, that's not true. There are multiple like provided cases, and it talks regarding like multiple species in the Ritter 8 evidence. Also, even if that's not true, the Ritter the species loss still won't lead to extinction. There's been mass species loss within the past. Like Trump's own policies like that have already been passed are already leading to mass species loss. Like he's already overcoming environmental endangerment species like policies, which means that we should have already seen the biodiversity impact, and like they still fail to provide any evidence. Now, onto the dissad. Extend the Sparks 1010 evidence that Democrats are going to win that, but Republican expectations are still high due to generic ballot polling, Democratic enthusiasm, women's support. Don't buy their uniqueness evidence. It's 2 days. It's like 2 days older than ours, which means that we outweigh on recency. Like they provide no like unique work. Also, our words outweigh specifically account for multiple factors in elections out of keys such as like generic ballot polling, Democratic enthusiasm, and women's support. So extend the link evidence that extend the Raskin's press release 17 that empirics prove that through 2 different policy proposals that shield laws are objectively seen as a bipartisan issue. There are issues that there's tons of bipartisan bills. However, like yes, there are tons of bipartisan bills. However, the reason why confidential sources is uniquely key is because that is a voting issue, and that is like a key like voting issue for the public. Those other bills like they aren't like key voting issues for the public. So extend the Reznikov 14 that environmental policies are a key voting issue for swing and independent voters in the swing states such as like Virginia. 61% of voters said that they support new rules which the EPA proposed, and 70% of Americans nationwide support federal regulation of emissions. Sure, this card is from 2014. However, they failed to address that. However, this situation has just gotten like even worse because like Obama was directly for environmental changes, and it was for new technology like solar energy and new renewable technology. However, Trump has directly taken a stance against that, and pretty much like Trump is like literally just like negotiating to take away jobs from renewable and like new developing technology that will help like prevent environmental and catastrophic environmental changes, and he's directly just trying to lead to like increasing jobs for things such as the coal mining industry, which means that the environmental issue has only become even bigger. Also, they provide like no counter evidence to say that environmental policies aren't key now. Also, on their all causes evidence, the all cause it doesn't solve like tweets in Canada doesn't mean that like it will lead to extinction. They don't contest the words in the card about how we're like judiciary takeover is specifically key. So extend Bolton 815 that bipartisan bills are key to GOP maintaining control of independent voters. It just like establishes the perception that Republicans are keeping control over the government and swing independent and swing voters. Now extend Kilgore 17 that Democrat wins block judiciary takeover. First, it prevents abolition of SCOTUS filibusters, and it prevents ending blue slips. Their only argument against this is that Democrats are gonna. Their only argument against this is that like blue slips don't solve. However, they provide no evidence. It's just like a random claim made. Don't like buy this claim like very like high like amount of truth in it. Also, like blue slips aren't working. Blue slips are working in the status quo. It's that like any senator can allow for a blue slip, to protest judges. And also, they don't like contest the warrant of how it prevents the specific abolition of like SCOTUS filibusters, which means that there will effectively be no legal and legislation that is stopping Trump from appointing as many judges as they want. And they only say that like Trump has already elected several judges. However, they don't quantify the number of judges. This is just another random claim that has been thrown out. And also, like Trump can. Also, it's not like Trump has like a limit on the number of judges he can appoint. There are a massive number of judges that they can still appoint that overall will swing like legislative change to make it worse for the environment. So extend Sherman 17 that Trump judiciary takeover is an existential threat to the environment. Only blue slips can like prevent it. Again, they only make a like mitigatory defensive claim against this, which means that like like the risk of the disad means that like we should automatically win the round here. And also we control the internal link like to the after impacts because Trump has direct control over the Environmental Protection Agency, and at the end of the day, he's the one with control over the entire government, which means that he can overrule any like EPA regulation that has been passed, and extend the McClure 14 card that directly leads to extinction. That's it.
It's 850.
Yeah.
You should go your way.
It's gonna be case the disad.
Case D.
Mm-hmm. Biodiversity loss is catastrophic. Famine, disease, and disrupt the ecosystem. The plan reverses these trends, improves EPA regulation, results in lethal pesticides being taken off the market to stop biodiversity loss. All of your arguments about a lack of sliding scale framing are a reason to not vote for the warming disad too. You haven't quantified a brink for warming either. If you're buying his arguments on sliding scale, then you should just vote for the bee impact because it's not sliding scale. We have identified a number of bee species that we'll have to lose in order to solve the plan. You conceded that impact scenario, but we'll win biodiversity anyways, and the case outweighs the disad. The slight chance that new Trump judges enforce environmental policy is outweighed by tangible biodiversity impacts that happen in the status quo and will continue to happen. We've done quantification in the 1AR. Now, the status quo doesn't solve pesticides. One pesticide being banned is nothing compared to hundreds of pesticides that the EPA regulates right now that are not, that the EPA allows right now that are not regulated and are lethal. One is not enough. Now, not a New York Times article. Our GAP 17 argument should be extended. It proves that the journals are an effective method of producing legislation. Democrats care if Democrats and Republicans care if they're going extinct, even if Trumps don't. Also, will when the Democrats win now means that legislation will happen because the Democrats get enforced anyway, and they're not, and they don't agree with Trump. Now, the corporations are tied to the media. Your evidence is capitalist. It is like a socialist propaganda, and there's no empirics about what media sources are tied to Trump. Also, no, we do provide a brink. Biodiversity is a sliding scale, and as we get worse, it gets worse. Things like famine and disease are happening right now, and we're losing people now. The strategy is uniqueness overwhelms the link. Your uniqueness evidence might be more recent than ours, but our evidence answers your evidence. It talks about how we lost women as a result of cabinet, and also as a meta model of multiple studies. To also read the title to their evidence, it says that Democrats are facing a strong lead. There's no reason why Democrats are kind of behind now, or that Republicans might win. Our evidence produces multiple reasons why Democrats are sure to win now, and one of them is Kavanaugh, which you've not responded to. We'll extend the alt cause argument, which says that tweets and Kavanaugh are infinitely infinitely more important than things like bipartisan bills. That's your evidence. Also, we'll extend the argument that there's many bipartisan bills. Now, even if the SHIELD law is bipartisan, there's no reason it's going to swing the vote. People care about opioids more than they do about the SHIELD law. There's no reason that the SHIELD law is key, and you shouldn't give him this framing. Now, swing votes are different now than they used to be. They used to be moderate Republicans, but Overton window means that moderate people change, which means that environmental policies might not be key to swing votes now, and you shouldn't give him that credence. But we have won. The Democrats are surely to win the Senate now because he's lost women and independence as a result of his crazy tweets, economic policies, and namely Kavanaugh. Also winning the Democrats now means that Trump doesn't matter, and it means that Trump doesn't matter in terms of the policies. Also, Trump has appointed a bunch of judges now. Trump has been court packing since January, and 2/9 of SCOTUS is Trump. Good debate.
possible to Uber Eats at Starbucks?
There's only one way to find out. I'm sure there's actually more than one way to find out, but there's one best way to find out. Just see if they'll do it.
I'm not too.
Oh. You didn't want to come in. It's like, what's happening here?
Maybe you cannot.
Hmm?
I said, maybe you cannot. It's actually so sad. I'm so tired.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna leave my stuff here and go get some food during when we see if you're doing.
Before?
I'm definitely going to leave and get some food during the one see if you're doing.
Where are you going?
I'm just gonna go to the shop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good debate. So I voted AF. I think there's not a super high chance of the AF, but I think there's a much lower chance of the DA. Starting on the AF, I think the neg is making some decent presses into the AF. I think particularly come on, no legislation's gonna happen, no follow on. I think this is a decent place to push, but I'm not entirely sure it's definitive to knocking down the AF to 0. So the AF's got a few arguments here. One, that empirics in the past sort of proved that legislation is followed on. Two, that public pressure is key. And third, if they win the thesis of the DA that Dems win now, that sort of answers the argument about Republicans refusing to pass anything. Now, I'm not sure if that's a great argument because Trump, but it seems like mitigatory. I don't think it's definitive. I'm not 100% convinced that the Republicans won't flip and do something in the face of massive public pressure against pesticide use, especially since it's not like a warming sort of regulation. It's just farmers hate pesticide use and people die from that sort of stuff. And so those things I think help make me think that there's at least a chance that the AF gets followed and does something to solve, if not BLOS, then violent BLOS. A lot of the defenses to the internal link impact levels are okay. None of them comes close to terminal. This right evidence that asserts the corporation is controlled by the media. It's interesting. I don't think it is implicated as strongly as it needs to be to explain how they will spin their way around these leaks, or they'll just stop them from happening in the first place. The only thing that's really asserting the 2 Rs that corporations that control the EPA and control the media as well, it's very unclear as to what else that entails. SQO solve is probably not the case because tons of other pesticide uses. Okay, politics DA. So, uniqueness overwhelms the link is usually not the strategy I'd go for, but I think it's executed well enough that I'm willing to think that there's pretty low chance that the link is strong enough to make the Republicans win. And so, one of the problems I think for the 2 ARs is I think there should be more specific press on the neg's uniqueness evidence and more specifically press on the quality of their link evidence as it relates to the question of uniqueness. So I think it's pretty clear that Dems win now, but it's a question of why they're winning now and what the link does to change any of that. So it seems like the neg's link argument is about partially about turnout, but also mostly about independent voters. And very little of that is done to interact with a lot of the push that the app is forwarding, which is that those things don't matter in a world in which women and women are structurally locked into voting Democratic because of tweets and Kavanaugh's election, and the argument that the Dem base is just riled up beyond control. And the AF evidence even quantifies this, although the traders don't really point this out. That there's a large point lead in terms of the Dems winning currently, and it's going to be really hard to overcome that. And even though I think you've probably got some risk of a link argument about independence, it's not clear why that is sufficient to overcome the structural advantages that Dems have now. So if the 2 NR had just been I'll concede that women are locked in, but the only thing that is relevant is independence and whether or not they either flip or turn out more, then you've got yourself a chance of winning this. But I think the structural issues that the AF is mentioning in the 2AR are probably sufficient to think that your link argument doesn't overcome that. There's also two other defensive arguments that I think, not on their own, sufficient to reduce the DA down to low, but I think combined with the uniqueness or relevance of the link argument gives me low credence in it. Versus other bipart laws now says the Republicans' main strategy as a re-highlighting of the 1NC link card, that they're just going to push on things like opioids, which the 2AR asserts that many more people care about. If that's the case, that's probably sufficient to serve as a bumper to the link argument. And finally, that it is unclear what the big terminal impact out of the case is, given that hacking exists now. For one thing, this card about hacking from 2017, it's clearly been hacking for a while. A lot of the arguments are even sort of referencing top courts, which Kavanaugh doesn't disprove court hacking. I know it doesn't. And so both of those other arguments I think combined lower the DA down to not 0, but just lower than the AF. So I think part of this debate could be improved if there was more comparison of the EV and interaction between a lot of the uniqueness and link arguments and how they line up. I think I mentioned a lot more of this more specifically, but for example, the 2AR isolating the link argument and comparing it to the uniqueness or relevance of the link argument you're making, which is just it is locked in. They've not contested the polls, not contested all the analysts, not contested I think it was a 7-point advantage that the Dems have. And there's just not a 1NC argument or a 2NR argument about independence and how that relates to any of that. And pushing on that, neg should be doing the same thing. And talking about how, and then pushing maybe a little bit more into the quality of their link evidence. You're correct, the 2014 card isn't great, but you should be questioning how environmental issues relate to independence perceptions of Kavanaugh, for instance, right? So maybe people care about the environment, but do they care about Kavanaugh more? It seems like if they do, then it doesn't really matter if they like environmental issues. They're just not going to vote Republican, right? And so there's just a lot of these smaller questions that if we interact this issue versus this issue, which one is relatively more important to voters, right? Which one changes turnout? Which one changes voter behavior? Which one gets independence out, right? And I think really only the app is doing some of that, but they should just be doing more of it. Okay, I feel like that was long enough. Only just one other comment for each debater, and then whatever questions you have, I'll answer them. For the neg, I think you want to make a few more turns the case arguments, in addition to all the other stuff that I mentioned, but your impact is an environment impact. So I would read this just as a turns the case impact, and I read it as something external to the politics DA as well. Don't want to make your impacts function the same as the AF. You should just be there's a reason the dissent turns the case, and instead read a separate impact to Republicans winning. Millions of other things out there. I don't think you want to make the debate overcomplicated by making sure that AF's impacts somehow relate to your terminal impact scenario. For the AF, I probably would, I would push more in on the argument that hacking is a thing now. Okay. This seems to me just to be the weakest part of the DA for sure. It's politics DA, all of it's weak, but this part particularly, which is yep, the plan is the one thing that just gives the Republicans the ability to run roughshod in the judicial system and gut every environmental regulation. You should just feel this is obviously silly, and push more in on that sort of stuff because I just thought there wasn't a good stronger answer to that, and I thought the 2AR extended it for the last 3 seconds, and I was this argument I think is pretty strong at reducing the risk of the DA. Okay, that was ranty enough. If there's any questions about anything, I
think I'm good.
Okay.
Well. Do you have anything? No. Do you think that would you have felt about a 1AR that read impact defense to warming? I just got concerned about the tension with biod loss, but do you think there could have been a different, do you think that it could have been dangerous for me? I mean, it could have, of course, but.
I don't think there's any need to read impact defense to warming. So for example, the top of the 1AR is we turn the case because environment loss makes the GOP more likely, or turn the GA, the environment loss makes the GOP more likely to win. You should just be biod loss is an acceleration, an impact magnifier to warming or something like that. And I'm not sure why you're just if we win the terminal impact to our act, it clearly turns the warming impact in the MC. So I wouldn't read impact defense, I just say case turns the DA in that sense.
Cool. Do you still speak?